Imagine that you invite a friend to a party and they just say, I can't go. How do you feel? Well, a lot of people say when I ask them that question is they say that, oh, they feel kind of sad or maybe they even feel like a little angry with their friend about like, hey, well, why can't you come? And things like that. The problem with that response, just like, I can't go. The problem with that is that there's no frame. So you don't know how to take that sort of answer. You don't know, is it something that they should be upset about? Is it something that you should be like angry about or sad about? Versus if you ask your friend to come to something and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, like my parents are in town," or "Oh, I'm sorry, like we're flying out of the country tomorrow." Maybe you probably don't feel as bad about they're not going to your party. And so today I want to talk a little bit about frames because that's what that is. A frame is what allows you to interpret how to interpret a message. Okay. And so what I see with a lot of speakers, English learners, is that we're not incorporating a lot of frames into our speech. And so we're not communicating as effectively as we could. And I want to show you some techniques for doing that that you're not going to find in pronunciation textbooks very often, including my own. I'll be honest, in my textbook, I don't mention this aspect of the language. Good morning, guys. Good evening. Good afternoon. Welcome to your daily American English pronunciation show, which is Wake Up American. We are here Monday through Friday, typically between the hours of 7 8 a.m. to make sure that you can get in your 5 to 10 minutes of pronunciation practice for a day. And to guide you in that process, there is me. Hi, my name is Jeff. It rhymes with breath. That's one of the 4 keys to a natural sound in American English, including placement, pitch, breath, trying to weaken your consonant sounds in order to strengthen your vowel sounds. And today we're going to be talking about sounds, but these aren't sounds you'll find in the IPA. These are sounds that you can use with your listener to give some frame to what you're saying. Okay. For instance, last night I was working with our group coaching students. By the way, if you're any level of channel member on Mondays, you can see that evening class. Okay, so do check that out because I know we have some members that don't always check out those videos. So take a look at that. But we were talking a little bit about framing with sounds. For instance, we had one student that was trying to give a warning. Okay, like something was about to happen and she was trying to warn other people. And we were struggling a bit. So, one way that you can start off by letting others know that what you're about to say is more urgent is by doing something called a gasp. A gasp is like a things like that, kind of like sharp movements and like sharp cuts of breath. Okay. And what that indicates to your listeners that you're surprised by something or there's a lot of urgency to something that you're about to say. Like if you're trying to just say like, be careful, that sounds flat. People may not take you very seriously if that's how you say that. Be careful. Whereas if you're like, be careful, suddenly everything changes because you've changed, again, the frame. So an example of this would be like that. Just a very short intake out of breath. Okay. Okay. So that's one example. Another quick example of something is that let's say that you're trying to demonstrate that something takes effort. You're doing something, but it's physically challenging. Like let's imagine you're trying to push a rock. Like let's imagine like I am pushing the rock. Well, it doesn't sound very convincing, right? So what can we do with our voice to kind of frame that we're having difficulty doing that? Well, what you can do is you can kind of tighten your throat. So instead of doing like I am, like I am. Do you see some things we're doing? Do you see that? So instead of doing we're like really tightening the throat. Okay, and the other thing too is that you're gonna feel a lot less breath moving through and a lot less breath extending as well. So instead of saying like I am pushing the rock, we're like I am pushing, things like that. Okay, and what that can do, the frame that you're giving to your listener is that hey, this thing is challenging. Another example that we can talk about that we saw in the class last night, that again, if you're able to see it, I would encourage you to check out, would be we were giving examples of, let's say your friend is borrowing your car. You don't trust your friend. Your friend is not a good driver, and you're kind of their last option. And you just bought a new car, so you don't really want them to use it. Okay. Notice that I'm giving you kind of a story to put you into context because this also builds a frame around what you're going to say. Okay. So you're trying to show some disappointment. Okay. Like you really have a lot of reservation about this happening. So the way you can show that is, for instance, a sigh. So a sigh is like, the other way you can do that too is with a shrug. So that's when you like raise and lower your shoulders. So like, other ways you can do that include body language as well. Okay, so like for those of you who've seen the body language course that we have, we talk about things like this, where maybe like you'll rub your face like, and the last thing you may do is you may, for instance, lower your voice, lower pitches, like, like just be careful, like things like that. Okay, so lower voice. Compare that to just being like, just be careful. Sounds a little flat, right? Whereas if you're like, just be careful. Okay, completely changes it, right? Or in that same situation, a final example is maybe you're going to be a lot firmer. You're not happy about this situation. So you're going to give them some very stern warnings. This is another example we talked about last night as well. So maybe, for instance, what you may do to show that you're not happy about this is you may like kind of like cross your arms a little bit, and you may do a lot of, for instance, like falling intonations and also kind of cutting breath a little bit. So instead of saying something like, look, be careful, which, it sounds a little serious. Look, be careful. But if you're incorporating more of that body language and you're incorporating some of those sharper falling intonations and you're cutting more breath, if you're like, look, be careful, changes everything, right? Compare, look, be careful versus, look, be careful. Okay. So I do have to run to a class, but this is really what I want you guys to be considering. Consider what is the frame that you're using when you're talking to help amplify whatever the message is that you're saying. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I can't do this without you. That's the whole reason why we do these in the first place. And the fact is that there's a lot of pronunciation resources out there. So you being here, I appreciate it. I'll see you all later. Hope you guys have a good day, have a good night, and a good afternoon. Take care.